So we're starting now. Get well and thrive. Activate your body's own self-healing mechanisms. Welcome everybody who's joined us, and thank you so much, Di Sommer, for joining me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Di, we've both had a very big journey with chronic illness, and it's been so fantastic having you with your support, your knowledge, your experiences, and sharing so much information for many years now. Thank you very much. And you've certainly had a very big story. Would you like to share some of your story?
Yes, I will. And I can also extend my thanks and gratitude to you because, you know, there have been many, many times that I sort of thought, oh, do I do this? Do I do that? And as you know, without people really living through it and understanding when you're in an unwell situation, other people, unless they experience it, they just think, you look so fantastic. But you know, the case, it's not the case. So, yeah, I was told it was not Lyme disease. I was told it was multiple sclerosis, and I was told it was Q fever, just so many other illnesses. I also had all the symptoms of Parkinson's. And then as time moved on, I started to deteriorate quite badly, and I was actually introduced to a thing called reconnected healing, which is something that I didn't really hold much hope in, but I'd tried everything else that I thought, well, I'll give this a try. So I did it, and I was so impressed by it that I became a practitioner, as you know. And then there were many other journeys that I'd travelled on during these last 9 years, and just different things that I tried. Healthy eating, clean eating, just there's been a myriad of things that I've tried, and some of the things have worked really, really well, and some of the things have just, I've gotten to a certain stage of wellness and then it's died off. So that's why our information exchange, I believe, is going to be very, very helpful to share with other people.
So Di, we know that, or you and I know that many pathogens, there's a lot of different pathogens, viruses, parasites, bacteria that many of us carry without realising. It's not just Lyme disease, there's a lot of others as well. And many of them can contribute to or cause the symptoms of many diseases and illnesses, such as the things that you were having symptoms of with the Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. There's autoimmune conditions, there's mental health conditions, there's learning disorders, anxiety, depression. Nearly every disease or illness, Lyme disease can, and different infections can mimic those symptoms. So almost every physical ailment that people have, they may even have a hidden infection that they don't realise. So instead of just feeling that they need to live with a condition or a diagnosis or a set of symptoms that they don't know what it is, there is a lot more things that they can do to address, to activate their body's own self-healing, to remove pathogens, to remove toxins, and have a great deal of improvement, as we've both experienced.
Yes. And I've recently discovered that with Dr. Mark Hyman with the Broken Brain series. That has been an incredible education tool for me. So excellent. Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing, is that nowadays that there's so many really good scientifically, medically based doctors who are doing a lot of research and sharing their information freely on the internet. And then I know we've both been involved in many support groups, both nationally and internationally. So we're really getting the latest in modern medicine, ancient time-tested home remedies and all the different types of diet, all this information that's being shared with top medical practitioners and patients who are trying these different treatments and sharing what's working with them to find out, well, what's the best thing to have a go at? Because there's so many different options, there's so many different things we can try. It can get pretty confusing, but you know, we really do have access to a lot of information rather than just feeling stuck, that we're stuck with a certain condition. We can do things and take steps towards regaining health.
Exactly. And some of the stuff is just as simple as walking on the bare earth, like how easy can that be? Or going for a beach walk. Just some of the stuff just definitely helps your body. So yeah.
So Di, just to share with people just how bad you were. So So you were bitten by some ticks. Some people might have some sort of infections, whether it's Lyme or other co-infections or different
Yes.
pathogens that they don't remember or haven't known about being bitten by any sort of ticks. But you became quite well, and you were actually really getting quite bad, weren't you?
Oh, most definitely. And mine was because for many years I worked at the ag station in Grafton, and we were at certain places where up near Austinville and stuff, some of the other stations, so they were fairly heavily tick infested. But it's also working with cattle as well, so that's where the Q fever came into it as well. So um, just to be clear, in the beginning I tested positive for Q fever and tick typhus. They were the two things that were recognised almost immediately when I started to become unwell. But it wasn't until I actually had those other symptoms of the Parkinson's and the MS that they were quite concerned. And then eventually I was diagnosed or told that I had Lyme as well.
So what were your symptoms, Di? What was happening in your body?
I had the chronic fatigue. That was one of the big things that I had. Towards the end, or not towards the end, but within the last 5 years, I had reoccurring flare-ups where I'd had slurred speech, and people had thought that I was drunk, that I was hiding in the cupboard with a bottle of red. I also had brain fog quite badly, and I also did the chronic fatigue and the actual aches and pains in all of my limbs was just, I'd go for weeks on end of not being able to move. And I also had really, really bad neck problems, and my headache just felt like it was going to explode. So those were just the things. But then also in that last 12 months before I had the reconnective healing, my hands became so bad that I was shaking all the time. One of my grandchildren noticed it and said, "You look like you're really cold, Nan." But I looked down and it was uncontrollable shaking. And then I also had the muscle wastage in my right leg, where I actually lost the use of I fell over many times when I went to take a step, very similar to the MS, but it was just concentrated on the right side of my body. So again, there were times where I'd feel like I was mending myself or feeling better, but all of a sudden, for no rhyme or reason, it would just flare up again. And again, it was that chronic fatigue, the thing, or the headaches. Felt like my head was going to explode.
Yeah.
And the heat, again, I just put it down to hot flushes going through menopause, but it wasn't that. Something a lot more dramatic than that.
Yeah. And so you have used quite a lot of different methods. We'll go into those very shortly. We'll go briefly over all the different remedies and different treatments and mind-body healing techniques we've both used. And another day we will, or as we go along in the next coming months, we'll work on each one of them specifically, sharing a lot more information.
Yes.
But I remember when I first met you, Di. So I remember when I first met you, I was sharing a lot of the different remedies that I'd used, and I was giving a talk, and I'd invited a lot of the practitioners that have helped me to come along, because basically when I was a teenager, I came down with chronic fatigue, and I put up with a lot of symptoms for many, many years. And then I had the tick bites about 10 years ago, 2008, 2009, and became extremely well. I was hospitalised. I really felt like I was dying, and someone else said to me, one of my practitioners said to me later on, they were very worried, that I may die within a few days. And I was sent home with Xanax and told I had anxiety. And so when you get to that stage, you could try anything.
That's right.
Because you get to the point where you're desperate, and it's no point not trying something. And
right.
But it took me about 4 years. Thankfully, some good natural remedies helped me a little bit, and then another 4 years I did get a diagnosis with a Lyme specialist in America. That was just a clinical diagnosis, and then a couple of years later I had blood testing which showed that, and then it confirmed. And then a couple of years later, I was having some really severe problems with my back, and my grandfather actually died of cancer of the spine. And I'd had a spot where I used some ointment that eats away only cancerous cells, and it alerted me to the fact there might be something seriously wrong. So I had some thermal imaging which confirmed abnormalities through a lot of my back, my spine, shoulder areas, both breasts, and it actually came down from a hidden tooth abscess. You could see areas in the vein there that there was abnormalities or inflammation showing up. And so I've used a lot of remedies and treatments as well. And so I think when I met you, I might have been around that time or just before I had the thermal imaging and this event that I put on and bringing all these people together. I remember you were all excited to meet up with me because you'd heard about the event because I was putting the word out there, and I was quite excited to have someone in my fairly close in my area who'd experienced very similar things. And as soon as we connected up, we were immediately sharing lots of information and all the different remedies and treatments we'd tried.
All the parallel treatments, like different stages, but yeah, very similar. Yeah, I remember that well as well.
Yeah, and also that I'd done a lot of breath work, and then I think I might have started the Psych K around near the time when I met you, and then I also did genome healing as well, and you've done the reconnective healing. So we both started work on the mind, body, or energetic side of things as well, and so that really, I think that really ties in too, because if we're holding energetic blockages or emotional blockages in the body, that seems to be an area actually where it's almost like a stagnation in the body, and pathogens or disease and illness can actually start to be created in those areas of blocked energy in the body.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that different things that you try, it's the first time you try them, like, I know that when you're that desperate, sometimes you expect it to happen straight away. And I've learned my favourite saying to everybody, even people that come and see me about the reconnective healing, it's like onion layers. They've got to peel away slowly. And sometimes you've just got to be patient. And you might go one step forward and 3 steps back, but at least you're gradually, at the end of the day, making those steps forward. So,
absolutely, Di. And that's the thing, is that especially if you've been sick for a long time, if you had a chronic illness, there can be damage or pathogens or toxins, heavy metals can be throughout our whole body. And if we try and get rid of that straight away, it can be way too much for our body to process.
That's right, exactly.
Yes, taking time and just little bit by little bit, noticing the improvements. And I know that, well, we've both, had experiences talking to people who have maybe tried too much of something at once or jumped into too many things at once, and they have quite bad reactions, and it makes them very wary to go ahead then.
That's right. And some of them, I think a lot of people don't realise that the releasing of the pathogens or the toxins out of your body, it is phenomenal. Like it's something your body needs to cope with. So having that release, like somebody say, oh, this stuff doesn't work or that stuff doesn't work because I'm feeling so unwell, as we know, like with the Protandim, and people start immediately saying, well, it can't be doing me any good, but they don't realise that it's actually peeling away those onion layers from the inside. It's the same with the reconnective healing. It's the same with just about everything that we've ever discussed or tried. It's a rhythm. It's a process that your body has to go through. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I'm just going to run through some of the things that we've both tried, and then if there's anything that I've missed that you've also tried that I haven't dialed or that I haven't got listed here, please let me know.
Okay.
So there's some simple. This is just a list of many of the things that Di and I have both used with great success. Some things we have had significant improvement. Some things have just had mild improvement, and we will go into this over the following months. We'll go into each one of these in a lot more detail, be talking about the way that they've had an effect on our body, what they've done, the feelings that we've had, the improvements that we've had, and also the scientific and doctors' information that we have. We'll share information from the scientists where these things were created, how they were created, and what they're doing in the body. So first of all, there's simple things like kidney and liver cleansing herbal teas. We'll address parasites, pathogens, viruses, parasites, bacteria, and the biofilm that they live in. They often create a biofilm which is like a slimy gel, and they hide within that little home they create. And things that we take to try and remove them, to kill them off, won't get in there. So we've got to remove the biofilm. Talking about heavy metals and the effect that they can have on the body, and the way parasites can actually uptake heavy metals in the body and protect us in a way. So if we're going to get rid of pathogens, we also want to do cleansing to remove heavy metals. Dental health, very, very important. So this hidden tooth abscess that I had caused all sorts of troubles. It showed up in thermal imaging, all the areas on the right side coming down from there. The bacteria can go straight into the bloodstream. And of course, amalgam fillings can be troublesome as well. Mold, most people that have chronic illness have troubles with mold. We'll talk about alkalizing the body, bicarb soda, and how beneficial that can be to basically alkalize the body, where most disease and illness, pathogens all thrive in an acidic environment. And when we alkalize the body, this creates an environment that pathogens and disease can't really survive in very well. Balancing biochemistry, very important. A lot of depression can be zinc deficiency. If we're high in copper, often we're low in zinc. And just by taking a simple zinc supplement, that can remedy some forms of depression, many forms of depression. And also amino acids like L-tryptophan will actually help our body to create serotonin. GABA helps release physical anxiety if we're low in GABA. GC-MAF, very powerful to activate our body's immune system and the macrophages, the white blood cells, some of the white blood cells that run around and gobble up all the baddies. Redox, reactive oxygen species with ASEA and NRF2. I had huge success with strength in my spine using that, the gel Renew 28. Then we've got NRF2, which has been amazing. Excuse me. Yeah, that's been really amazing. A natural product with a combination of 5 herbs, which activates the NRF2 protein in our cells, which goes into the nucleus of the cell and binds with 400 to 500 genes and acts upon them to upregulate healthy genes and downregulate harmful genes. And we get to remove 40% of oxidative stress in 30 days, which is amazing. And that's a US study approved by the FDA. That's been absolutely amazing for me. All my chronic fatigue gone of 30 years. Nothing else did that. Probiotics, the huge importance of improving the gut health and the microbiome. That helps to, we need the microbiome, the bacteria in the gut, to break down food and absorb food and nutrients. Realigning the body, so important to have a nice, healthy, as straight as possible spine that doesn't have any what do you call it, out of alignment.
Yeah.
Very important for that, to help the nervous system and the whole body operate properly. Energy healing. So there's, under energy healing, we have a lot of different categories. So there's earthing, grounding. There's the AMP coil. Gosh, that's been so amazing for me. Ever since I used the AMP coil, my back has dramatic improvement and strength in my body. It's also been used by a lot of people for Lyme disease. It helps to activate our body's own self-healing mechanisms by bringing our frequencies, all the frequencies of the body and all the systems of the body, the organs, every system back into the optimum frequency. Dr. Clark Zappa, I used that a lot, and my daughter had great success with the Zappa. Her learning troubles disappeared, her digestive troubles disappeared, and she had a lot of energy and went on to be an Australian junior longboard champion. And before that, she was having a lot of troubles, not much energy, learning problems in school. And there's a lot of different, really big area in that energy healing section that we can cover, all sorts of different forms of energy healing, and even protecting your own personal energy, because many people who are particularly sensitive emotionally and physically, they can really be sensitive to other people's energy. There are some vampires out in the world, and we don't, some of us do that, everyone can do that accidentally in a while where we don't realise we may be, taking people's energy without realising it, and some people might quite like to do that a lot. And so protecting your own personal energy is really a powerful, important one. And your specialty, Di, we might come to that again in a moment, reconnective healing, and then reconnective healing and tapping.
Yep.
I know you love, and then also some topics that I'll be covering: breath work, Psych K, and the one and only amazing genome healing. So that's just a little overview of many of the things we'll be covering over the next couple of months. And I'm also inviting other practitioners to join in as well, because there's so much information in all of those topics that I've just talked about. So I'll be getting a lot of other practitioners in who specialise in each different area. And one thing that I know that you specialise in very well, Di, reconnective healing. Would you like to give us just a little overview about that?
Yes, well, it's just something that I totally stumbled on as you know my story. I was told about it from a friend of ours that said, oh, do you know such and such a neighbour? He was told he had 6 months to live, and that was 4 years ago. And my ears pricked up straight away, and I went round and saw this person, and I found out that he was very well. I looked into it. I had 3 sessions, and I've got to tell you, this is where my journey started, and I kept thinking, it's got to happen straight away. And that's where it comes back to the onion layers, because that first 4 months, I thought I'd wasted my money. But all of a sudden, it was just like, boom, it clicked into place for me. I was so impressed by how the chain of events had just given me back my life and my energy. And as I've said to you for many, many years, I was virtually symptom-free for 7 years after having interactions with the reconnective healing. I ended up doing a course. I became a practitioner. I did the reconnection, and so many people's lives have been touched by that little session with that lady. It was just incredible. And it's just really tapping in.
If you want if you want to just explain exactly what happens with you. It's, some people might think it's similar to Reiki, but it's a bit different to that.
Yeah, and look, I actually have 5 Reiki masters in Grafton that come to me on a regular basis, and they've said, I've never really experienced anything else except reconnective healing. They've all come to me and said, it's similar, but it is definitely not the same. And I'm not saying that reconnective healing is any better. In fact, I call it frequency healing, because it all comes from the same source. And these ladies are very, very good friends of mine. And yeah, it comes from the same source. I don't know what you'd call it, where it comes from. I can tell you just from immediate family, like my husband suffered with migraines for 40 years, and he was the biggest skeptic. Thought it was just a crock of ooby-dooby stuff. I gave him 3 sessions, and he virtually has been migraine-free for 9 years now, but he was migraine-free. He still gets his headaches if he doesn't drink enough water and stuff, but no migraine medication in 9 years. So it's been incredible. So it was a life changer, and virtually, as I've said to you, I was virtually symptom-free for 7 years until I had my farming accident.
Yeah, and I know that I've been with you in Grafton, and it's like the Pied Piper walking with you at Grafton. You end up with a whole lot of people following behind you, wanting to chat and saying, "Oh, Di, this has been happening since the reconnective," and it's pretty amazing.
Look, and it has been, and it's been amazing the amount of people that have come to me, because I never seek validation of what's happened to them, because the thing with the reconnective healing, the less you know about the person, the better it works. So, you know, and some people were a little bit put off thinking, oh, she's not interested in what's wrong with me. I'm just the tool that makes it happen. I actually don't do it. I'm just the conduit. So I don't ask what's wrong with you, because the less I know, the less chance there is of me trying to direct the traffic and
Yes.
make things happen. And I think by doing that, that's why people's results have come back so spectacular. And some people have come back to me and said, you know, what they came in for me to help them with hasn't quite got there yet, but they've enjoyed other benefits, like the guy who had the problem with his eye. You know, their intents and purposes was to get his ulcer on his leg to stop from reoccurring and flaring up all the time. And I did the healings on him, and it turns out that he'd had a detached retina. And when he went back down to see the specialist a few weeks after I'd done the healings, he used to get a wave across the front of his eye, and the specialist said, that'll never leave you. Some operations that's some people get it, some people don't, but it'll never leave you. Now that it's there, it will never go away. It went away after the healing.
That's
but
fantastic.
I didn't even know that condition had existed in his body. I didn't know anything about him. So they're the sorts of feedbacks that I've been getting over the last, as you see, people come up to me in the street and say, oh, by the way, this has been...
Yeah.
And I don't even know what was wrong.
Piper.
That's right, yeah. So it's been very rewarding in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Di, and our other participants. And we'll let you know when there's going to be more webinars going, and we'll have other different practitioners as well. We'll have specialists who'll be able to share all the different information about the specific treatments, remedies, and mind-body healing techniques. And so there's going to be a lot more information over the coming months. And if anyone has any questions or any topics that they'd like covered, please let me know, or let Di know. We'll have this recording shared, so please feel free to message us or ask a question down the bottom.
Also a time preference for when they want to hear.
Yeah, so if anyone would like to join in the webinar and ask any live questions, so if you could let us know times that would suit you, that would be fantastic, times or days that would suit you best, and we'll work something out.
Right.
And so we'll do this over the coming months, every now and again, maybe weekly, maybe fortnightly. We'll just see what works out. And just I think, Di, we've got so much information to share, and we're happy for other people to provide some input, or if there are practitioners who would like to share what they're working with and the way it can help people, we're happy to share that as well, to have them on the program.
Exactly. And thank you so much for inviting me onto it, because I think it's time that people realise, you know, we just combine, just the two of us, we have such a wealth of experience and knowledge there. And some of the paths we've taken, as we said, they haven't always worked for us, but we've shared it with other people and it's worked really well for them. So that knowledge, you know, could help so many other people as well.
Yes, absolutely, fantastic. And I am going to have a little talk on Monday about my back and my experience with the ASEA. And so I'm doing a little webinar Monday afternoon. I think that's at about 5:30, but I'll put some notice out about that. And I know, Di, that you were for about 4 months telling me to try NRF2. It is amazing. And I was thinking, oh, she's got caught up with this, you know, selling business. The people that have got her onto it have got her hyped up and got her caught up in it all. And I didn't try it for 3 months. And then you said, oh, and then I said to you, look, Di, I'm happy to do an interview on the radio for you and share your work, because I trust in you, and I know that you're so genuine with everything that you're whatever you're working on. I know it's genuinely from the heart. And so I said, oh, come on, we'll do an interview on the radio. So we did that, and I thought, oh, but it's just a bit too much for me. I don't want to really know about too much anyway, and then you sent me a bottle and said, give it a try, in appreciation for doing the radio show and interviewing you. And 3 weeks later, you rang me and said, how'd you go with it? And I said, oh, I haven't tried it. And I thought, damn, I better try this thing. Yeah. And from that day, 30 years of chronic fatigue disappeared. It's been 10 months. Absolutely amazing, Di. So I am so grateful to you. I had to ring you up and apologise profusely. And I just never thought that I would ever find anything like that. Not that I wasn't really looking for a magic pill for the chronic fatigue, but I tried so many things, and I really didn't think, that there was going to be anything else that was going to really help it so dramatically. But to have that experience was profound. So yes. Thank you very much. And hopefully we can help other people, whether it's the NRF2, the ASEA, the liver cleansing, the bicarb, the probiotics, the earthing, the Psych-K, genome, all these different things can have these profound results for people. It's a matter of finding which one is the best for you. Even for me, when I was seriously ill and dying, I was 12 kilos lighter than I am now. I was in hospital and sent home with Xanax, and a simple alfalfa leaf tea, liver cleansing, literally saved my life. So these sorts of things that people don't know about, we're going to be getting the information out there, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you've only got to speak to Karen Vidler, the same thing with her. She saw me after the accident and she said, this is where I'd like the opportunity to come back again and go back to that farming accident, because that's been another journey in this last 18 months. But she went home and said to her husband, I don't think Di's going to pull through this, because she could see that look that I had. And that was in the April last year. And then in the July school holidays, 12 months ago, the July school holidays, I ran up the hill in Maclean near that coffee shop there that we met. And she just went home and said to her, whatever Di's on, I'm getting it. And now she's got a circle of 25 people in her family that are all on it now because of seeing that transformation. So they're the sorts of things. It's not about selling, it's about sharing that experience.
Yes, yeah, and the thing is, when you find something that really seems to work well, it really is worth sharing.
Yes, it definitely is. So thank you very, very much for the invite. It was great. I really enjoyed it. So, and thank you to everybody else for being on as well.
Yes, fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Di. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, actually, thank you to both Dis.
Yeah.
Great.
And look, if you've got anybody that you want and you hear about the next ones that are coming up, we're more than happy to share our experiences. And it's just really to let people know that there's lots of information out there.
There is, and I'm so glad that both of you are sharing it, because truly, when people don't know that there are other options, it's really disempowering for everyone.
Yeah.
So thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you. And I don't believe that it's this is just my experience and my gut feeling though. I mean, it just seems as though it was meant that way for me to start off like that, and I've just had such a positive experience from it. And I do believe that your body needs to get that detoxing done.
Definitely.
So that you can actually get the experience of the benefits of it, and then go on to the NRF1. Even if you just give yourself a month on the NRF2 before you start. I mean, some of the distributors say, oh no, you should go on it all straight away. But I just feel like we weren't able to get it here in Australia for those first few months, so we could only do the NRF2.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. So
I was the same, Di, where I was just taking the NRF2 to start with.
Yep.
And I have heard since that I have been on the NRF1 as well, and I did feel an increase in energy.
Yep.
But I have heard since that the NRF1 is meant to help with chronic fatigue because it's repairing the mitochondria.
Yep.
But it was when I first started taking the NRF2, from that day the chronic fatigue stopped.
That's right, exactly. Yep.
I haven't had the big crashes in energy
No.
ever since, which is 10 months. Like I have
Yep.
had little ups and downs, but
Yep.
they're rideable. It was not like I was in bed for a week. Like
Yep.
if I've gone surfing, and normally I'd just be like, oh, just wiped out for a week.
Yep.
But now, if I do something and overdo it, I might be down a little bit the next day, but the next day after that, I'll be up again. It's not the
Yep.
big, huge crashes. So that was just the NRF2.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's something to think about, and I think it was just timing and the fact that the TGA hadn't approved of it. So I went ahead with the NRF2. I just thought, and it had already been here for, a couple of years anyway on its own. And so many people were seeing such great responses. So I just feel that, and that was the one that was first brought to the market anyway. So I sort of think that's the way to go. But it's, some other people I know that have gone straight on both products and had nothing but fantastic success. But if you're a bit vulnerable anyway, or your system's a bit, wobbly, it's probably best to start just on the NRF2 to start with, and then go on the boat.
Good to do that with anything, so that you can actually feel what's happening in your body and see how it's affecting you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's what I will try to do, because I went pretty gung-ho to start with, thinking, detox, and really sat myself on my bottom for a few weeks. So I take that on board, Di. Thank you. I think I'll just start with the 2 and bring the 1 in later.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Oh, it's funny. I'm just realising my before the thing wasn't shown, I'm seeing my hot water bottles sitting here. Cuddling my hot water bottle in Melbourne, and I have just had the flu last week, or whatever it was, but I tried to go surfing thinking, I'll be right. I went in the water. As soon as I had to go under a wave, oh my gosh, the shock to my body was incredible, and I ended up really sick.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
I can't believe you're trying to surf in Melbourne.
Oh,
to start with.
The surf was so good, and it looked so good. I'd already had a bit of a cough, but I've been feeling so good now for so long and invincible that I thought, I'll be right. And I had booties and a good wetty, so I paddled out. And the cold on my body didn't worry me. Like the wetty and the booties were fine, but as soon as I had to go under a wave, it was this awful cold shock. And I was actually, my body was trying to gasp. So it was like, like I had the feeling to do that, but I was under the water. And so I had to stop myself gasping until I came up. Another wave came by, and again I had to stop myself, and I just grabbed my board and went in. And I just thought, I couldn't do it. And then I got really sick the next day. I'd already had it hanging on, but I'd been keeping it at bay with all my good little remedies, and the cold shock, it was too much for my immune system. So hence the hot water bottle and a little bit of cough. I've actually been, people who've watched the recording back, they'd probably see I've just been putting a little bit of peppermint oil on my tongue. And that just stops the little bit of a tickle in my throat. So
yeah.
All right.
Good stuff, the peppermint oil.
Yes, it is. It's great stuff. Yeah.
I guess that's part of my journey, because I know how I felt. I felt disempowered a lot too, and that's kind of my mantra now, is that people should never feel that way. They should know that there are options, because it's all their choice. It's always your choice what to do. But if you don't know that, these other things work, or that people have had success, then you don't know. You just don't know what to choose, and you end up doing, I'm not saying traditional things are bad or anything, but you end up doing what everybody else has done, when perhaps there is a better way to combine things and do things differently. Yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe I can get you on the show sometime, Anne.
I would love to.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great, because
wonderful.
I think that it's time. I agree with both of you. It's time for people to realise that, not everything works for everyone, but there are so many things out there that you can try and combine together that really do give you, they just give you a little bit more help. It may, it's not a cure, but it's certainly, you're in a better place than you were before.
Absolutely. Definitely. And a lot of these things are activating our body's own self-healing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is, for me, I realised that a lot of the journey is between your ears. So if you empower yourself and you feel that you are doing, in control of your own healing, then that's like, half of the battle, really.
Definitely, yeah.
To
And
do
you've
that.
had an amazing journey, Anne. It'd be so wonderful to have you come on and share it.
I would love to. That would be great. Thank you.
And being a fellow genome healing practitioner as well.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going back in November. I'm going to do the whole 3 again in November, and Chris is coming over from Perth, so we're going to be roomies. Yeah, so it'll be great.
Fantastic, wonderful. Well, we'll be in touch, and we'll definitely we'll get you on.
And I think networking to say this is just for educating. It's not about spooling about any particular products. It's just saying this is what we found. It's like when we started the education page off for CBD oil. It's incredible the amount of people that just didn't have a clue. And all I'm doing is sharing these posts that the professor sends to me, and I'm not, I'm just sharing what he's sending on to me, and it's incredible the amount of people that just didn't have a clue.
I was one of those people too. Not so, not too many years ago. I had a very good handle on like the medical traditional things that were out there, but not so much the other complementary alternate, outside the square type of treatments. And from my experience, I can honestly say that's where I've had the most help.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know what the word modality meant before reconnecting healing. Didn't have a clue. So, there is you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, there's still lots more out there.
Yes,
lots more to learn. Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with you. It's all just about sharing your journey, and if somebody gets one little piece out of it that makes them think, oh, okay, I'll go look this up, then that starts their journey for them too.
Yeah.
Well, even that lady that did the oil pulling, because I was always on about it and I kept talking about it. So she went home and looked it up, and it turns out that she thought, if Di's on about this so much, I'm going to give this a try. And it turns out that she had this really bad infection that the dentist obviously wanted to do the work on the teeth, but he couldn't believe from one visit to the next, like 6 months later, whatever it was had calmed down so much, and it was just through the oil pulling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that one lady, and she said, I can't thank you enough. You just told me, kept telling me about how you do this oil pulling and how disgusting it sounds. But it was just that little bit of snippet that I just happened to share with her, and it made such a difference. So it makes you feel good to think that not that you've done it for them, but you've just given them that.
You've opened a door and shone a light. Is basically what it is. And if they want to step through that door, and they find some use, to explore that area, then that's wonderful. And if they don't, then that's okay too.
That's right.
You have to believe in your own journey. So, it's always good to explore. There's stuff. I get excited because I can't wait to find out all the things I don't know yet.
Exactly.
Definitely. And share those too. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Excellent.
I've just started doing functional medicine, actually, Di. As a health coach. I've just started that course.
Fantastic.
So I think with genome and a few other things, it'll probably be quite a good platform to be able to share things. Yeah,
absolutely. That's wonderful. And I just want to mention too, because the recording's actually still going, and I want to mention that both of you, like Di, you're a reconnective healing practitioner, and Anne, you're a genome healing practitioner. And so if anyone wants to talk about any problems they're having, or the emotional connection to physical illnesses, or anything that we've been discussing, that they can both get onto you for those, to follow that up.
Yeah, look,
it's wonderful.
the stories or the feedback that you get over the years, I mean, it's been incredible, and it's definitely all been life-changing. So it's really a case of people wanting to explore something and learn something, or just, as I said, just to be able to share with your own experience. It's great. It sounds great. I'm so glad you turned up today, Anne. I don't know why. Just really
I was actually a bit mortified because I was a little bit late. So I was kind of glad when you said, okay, let's get started. I was like, oh, whew, I'm not late after all. I thought I was going to miss half of it. Yeah.
And like you were saying, Anne, all of these things that we're sharing and talking about, it's all self-empowering. And as Bruce Lipton says, that when we have stressful thoughts or we're stressed, immediately there are stress hormones and chemicals released into our bloodstream that our cells respond to those stress hormones and shut down, bunker down, with the stress and the, protect. Whereas when we're not so stressed and we're feeling self-empowered and more relaxed, we've got the good endorphins and the happy hormones going through the blood, and then our cells, they respond by saying we're safe, we can multiply, repair, and all the systems within our body are then in a mode of everything's good, let's get everything going, repairing and going well. And so even just that feeling of feeling empowered, that you're learning information, that you don't feel out of control and scared of what's happening.
Fear's a big thing. Fear is just, I think, the biggest thing that people feel disempowered, because it's almost like at times you're in this place of paralysis and you just you can't even think what step to do next.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing, I think, with what what you're doing, is it allows people to sort of step out of that box of fear and realize, wow, I've got choices here. I can explore things. I don't just have to do what somebody else is telling me to do.
Yes, absolutely. And and as I mentioned, you've had an incredible journey with your health and with the emotional traumas you've overcome. And I can't wait to share it, because you're so amazing. And you've found ways to effortlessly, I mean, it can be intense at times, but you have found ways to quite simply to release some really heavy trauma and to be able to talk about that, something that you weren't able to talk about in the past, and the physical connection to the emotional trauma that you've had, and the way you've been able to navigate through that. And it is like a navigating through,
it's a bit of a maze at times. It is. But if you take the fear out of it, then that really helps. It really does.
Absolutely.
No, I would love to. Just let me know.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to get going now, but I'll definitely be in touch with both of you. Just let me know when the next one's on, and I'd be loved to sit back and have a listen to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leah.
Okay. Cheers.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.